Welcome back to U.S. government. Now, back when our Constitution was written, it was decided by the Founding Fathers that our government should be broken up into 3 branches, each with their own roles and responsibilities within the government. There is the legislative branch. There is the executive branch. And finally, there is the judicial branch. We'll be discussing all 3 of these in detail today. Now, the first branch of government we're going to talk about today is the legislative branch. And it is the largest branch of government. It is made up of the Congress. Now, Congress sits in this building, the U.S. Capitol building, and it actually has 2 chambers within it. It has the House of Representatives, and then the United States Senate. Now, the House of Representatives has 435 members. Each state is appropriated a certain number of representatives based on their population. Florida currently has 27 members for the U.S. House of Representatives, and we currently have 2 senators like every state. The Senate has 100 members, meaning that there are 2 senators for every state, no matter what their population is. Now, the job of the legislative branch is to simply make legislation or laws. They get together, they write a law, it goes through both chambers, and it has to be approved before it heads on over to the executive branch. Now, we'll talk later a little bit about how a bill becomes a law, but the important thing to take out of this lesson is that the legislative branch is made up of Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. These 2 houses here, both of these, make up Congress. And it's important to note that the legislative branch makes the laws of the United States. This is the important point. They make the laws. Now, the next branch of government that we're going to talk about is the executive branch of government. Now, the executive branch of government is headed, of course, by the President of the United States. Also within that executive branch is the Vice President, and then the President's Cabinet. Now, not all of these individuals work here in the White House, but the White House is the symbol of the executive branch, since this is where the President lives and works. Now, the Cabinet is made up of 15 members of department heads that the President delegates his authority to. These 15 members ensure that the laws of the United States are enforced. And that is the big thing to take away from this lesson, is that the executive branch enforces the laws of the United States. So remember back when we talked about the legislative branch makes the laws, and then it's the job of the executive branch, the President, the Vice President, and the 15 members of the Cabinet to really enforce the laws of the United States of America. Okay, the last branch of government we're going to talk about today is the judicial branch of government. The judicial branch of government is made up of the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land. It's also made up of 7 lower courts, and then 4 special courts. And the job of the judicial branch is to review and interpret the laws of the United States. Now, what we have in the United States, of course, is the U.S. Constitution. If I can get my mouse to work right. There you go. Constitution. The Constitution is, of course, considered the supreme law of the land. So any laws that affect the Constitution, change the Constitution, have to be reviewed by the judicial branch. This is not an automatic process. Someone has to bring a case against one of the laws. So someone has to disagree with one of the laws, and then it has to work its way up the court system, and finally it'll get to the Supreme Court. and they will rule on the constitutionality of a law. So if they rule it constitutional, then it stays a law in effect, and then the president goes and enforces it. If it becomes unconstitutional, then the president is authorized not to enforce it anymore. You might have heard a little bit about the ACA, the Affordable Health Care Act, also known as Obamacare. So a few of the states decided that after Congress passed the law and the president decided to enforce the law, that they would challenge the law. And they challenged it through the court system, the judicial branch, all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court heard the arguments of the states and of the executive branch, and they decided that the law was constitutional, which means that the president is in charge of enforcing the laws. So again, just to recap, the legislative branch makes the laws. The executive branch enforces the laws. And then the judicial branch reviews and interprets the laws based on the Constitution of the United States to ensure that the laws protect the citizens of the United States of America. And that in turn is the three branches of government. Next time we'll talk about the balance of power and how the Constitution ensures that the judicial branch doesn't overpower the legislative or executive branch, and vice versa, how none of the three branches really take over the other two. And we'll talk about that next time.